You're listening to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Calandra Martin, intuitive brand designer for spiritual entrepreneurs. The Magnetic Boss Podcast is where visionaries come together to openly share wisdom and authentic conversations. I know that you are ready to leave your legacy in the world and become sought out in your industry. I also know that you are sick and tired of getting overlooked. You're ready to have a magnetic business. I'm here to help you create your magnetic brand. It's my mission to help you show up confidently with a professional, irresistible online presence. If you're in this for the long game and all in on the big vision you have for your business, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Magnetic Boss Podcast. Today we are doing a live Q&A inside of the Magnetic Boss Collective, our community over on Facebook. I'm really excited this morning. This episode is going to be unlike most of the episodes because I have comments coming in real time. So I'm going to be responding to people. Those of you that are watching live today, drop it in the comments, whether it's a thought, a question, whatever it might be. And this is going to be a topic that is a little bit uncommon or a perspective that is a little uncommon. So today I really wanted to come on and talk about planning ahead for 2021 and some of the BS to avoid, because honestly, as a consumer of social media, I have fallen into this trap myself, and I see other people doing this too, into the trap of feeling like you have to have everything in your life, everything in your business, figure it out the first week of 2021 of a brand new year, right? This happens every single year. We see this happen all of the time, right? Everybody has these New Year's resolutions. We're looking back on the previous year, which, let's be honest, 2020 was a doozy. It was a really interesting year. There was a lot of room for growth in 2020. And so a lot of people, myself included, might be feeling like the pressure is on, right? Like we have to make 2021 better. We have to get it together, make 2021 really special, really change some of our ways that we're showing up, some of the things that we might be doing in our businesses. Brittany says the overwhelm of perfection. Yes, oh my gosh. Especially as an entrepreneur, right? So that's why I wanted to come talk about this today, because the people that I am following in the online space, you guys that are commenting on my posted things, I know for a fact that everybody is feeling this overwhelm or feeling like it needs to be perfect. And Brittany just said the need to feel it has to be perfect before you can start. Yes, The imperfection is often what holds us back, right? It's the idea that if we don't do it right the first time, the world's going to come crumbling down. And one of the biggest lessons that I have learned as an entrepreneur is that if you don't start, you never will find out what you could do better, right? So I like to look at quote unquote failures as lessons. And we've had a lot of lessons in 2020. There's a lot to learn and there's a lot to look at in the year ahead. And so what I want to encourage everybody to be thinking about is what actually feels good to you. Because we see everybody's resolutions, we see everybody's income goals or their celebrations from 2020, and we think, oh shit, I don't measure up to this. I'm not, reaching that level that I thought I was going to reach, or I didn't have the successes that I thought I was going to have. And that in itself can really leave you feeling stagnant. It can make it feel like you're hitting up against a wall. And then this idea of feeling like you have to plan everything out for the year ahead can feel incredibly overwhelming and really just get you in that stuck energy, right? And I know that I went through a phase of this, especially around the full moon. Prior to the full moon, I was feeling on fire. I had things planned out. And then around the full moon, my energy dipped, and it was right after the holidays, of course. So there was that aspect too, where I was like, oh my God, I just need to sleep for like a week. Meanwhile, everybody else on social media is planning out quarter one. Everybody on social media is talking about all of the things that they have going on for 2021 already. And I was instantly like, okay, well, why am I even trying, right? Why am I even showing up to try to make this happen when there's a good chance that it's not going to work out the way that I want it to, right? So we learn as entrepreneurs to kind of roll with the punches. We learn to ride the wave. And when you know that that is inevitable, you can do two things with it. There are two options here. The first one is to try to control everything, right? You get in this mindset of like, well, it has to be this way. I have to do this way. The experts are telling me that this is going to work for my business. And so we get it wrapped around our heads that we have to show up a certain way. And then something happens and things don't go as planned and we feel like massive failures, right? Now, the alternative option to this, knowing ahead of time that there are a lot of unpredictable circumstances that might show up in this new year, is to understand how we want to feel. This is how you switch the pattern from trying to control everything, trying to plan everything out in advance, to really allowing yourself to, one, not overwhelm yourself, beat the perfection, and allow yourself to have that sense of alignment. And alignment is a word that I know is overused, but it is a true explanation of how it should feel when you are planning your year ahead. So if you are trying to get down to the nitty-gritty of your launch strategy, if you're trying to put your offers together and you're feeling like you're hitting a wall, it might be because you are not matching the feelings that you want to feel with the result that you're trying to create. Does that make sense? So if you are, let's say, for example, trying to create your first six-figure year in 2021, if that is your ultimate goal, but you're creating an offer suite, a product suite of things that you actually don't care about that much, but you know are going to help you reach that income goal, you're going to have a block. There's going to be something that does not match up. And at the end of the day, if your energy is not in alignment with that big goal, it's going to be really difficult to reach that, right? It's not necessarily impossible, but it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to feel a lot harder. So with that being said, instead of thinking about the year ahead and trying to map out everything that you're going to do in your business and all of the opportunities that you're going to have and your calendar and all of this stuff, which I've done some of that work, but that's because I'm really clear on what it is that I want to achieve and how I want to feel when I achieve those things. But instead of going into the smaller details, I encourage you to start out by asking yourself, how do I want to feel this year? Right? That is why I love the exercise, which I shared in season 1, towards the end of season 1 of the podcast. That's why I shared the exercise of choosing your word for the year. Now, this is a really common practice. People do this all of the time, and it's kind of fun, and it's, just a thing that people do, but there's a reason behind it. There's some meaning behind this, because oftentimes your word is going to reflect how you desire to feel. So for example, in my life, in my business, my word of the year for 2021 is simplicity. Now, simplicity can mean a lot of different things, of course, but at the end of the day, the feelings that I am trying to create in my life this year are feelings of ease, of peace, of joy, of things being really simple and not overcomplicated, right? So looking back at the beginning of the year, the end of 2020, when I was trying to do the New Year's planning, the reason that I was feeling like I was hitting up against a wall was because I was overcomplicating stuff already, right? Can you see how we get in our own ways, right? We have this idea of what we want, and then we do the opposite of that, thinking that that's going to get us the results because we want to control that. So whatever your word of the year might be, however you desire to feel this year, that is going to be the indicator of what you can start doing today to create those feelings. So to recap this, what I want you to understand about 2021 and planning for the new year is that, one, it doesn't have to be perfect. There is no right or wrong way to plan your new year. In fact, if you decide that you don't want to plan anything, so be it, right? There is nobody going to come knock at your door and tell you that you're doing it wrong. There is no wrong way to do this. What works for you might not work for somebody else, and what works for somebody else might not work for you. That is the beauty of being an entrepreneur and being in your own power and allowing yourself to evolve at your own pace, right? So the very first thing to understand is, how do you want to feel this year? Keep it super simple. Stop trying to overcomplicate it. Stop trying to feel like you have to be perfect at this process, because there's a good chance that in the next couple of weeks, months, halfway through the year, your word of the year might change, right? Your circumstances may change. The things that you receive might change. So for example, if you are trying to attract abundance into your life for 2021, well, what happens when you do achieve that, right? What happens when you receive that abundance halfway through the year? You have to allow yourself to evolve and adapt. So it's really important to understand that, one, you have to start where you are. Two, you have to stop comparing yourself to what everybody else is doing. Three, you have to understand how you want to feel. And then four, you really want to be able to start embodying those feelings now, because when you do that, the process speeds up, right? We all hopefully at this point are familiar, if you've been listening to the podcast at all, with the idea of manifestation, with the idea of when you align your energy with what it is that you want to attract, it becomes easier to attract that thing or that experience, right? Or that feeling. And so having this intention and knowing ahead of time that things are going to evolve is going to leave you feeling more rock solid than if you were to try to sit down and plan out every detail of your head and try to have this perfect picture painted out for yourself, right? So with that being said, what I want to encourage you to do is decide how you want to feel this year. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be something where, you feel like you have to have the perfect answer. What you want to feel today might be different from tomorrow, but in this moment, I encourage you to sit down and ask yourself, what would feel really good, right? Do I want more joy? Do I want more peace? Do I want more excitement and adventure? Whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then think about how you can create those feelings in your life today. So, for example, going back to my word of the year, which is simplicity, how can you make things more simple today? So for me, that might look like breaking down the giant task list of things that I have to do to overhaul pieces of my business, breaking that down into one thing. So this morning, something that I was working on was rewriting my sales page for the Brand Incubator, which is my all-inclusive branding package. This is something that feels overwhelming if you look at all of the pieces of the things that are going to change in my life and in my business this year. But writing the sales page copy is actually really simple. It's going to take me maybe a couple of hours, right? So breaking it down into that bite-sized piece allows for a feeling of simplicity, right? All I have to do today is write that sales page. I don't have to do anything else in my business. And I'm doing that because it feels good, right? It's because it's something that I wanted to do this morning when I sat down and I grabbed my coffee and I opened up my computer. I said, oh, this is what feels really good. This is what feels really simple. This is what feels easy. So I hope that this is helpful for you. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear your questions. Again, this video, this live recording is going to be inside the Magnetic Boss Collective. So if you want to have a conversation about this topic in the thread of the video, please do so. If you're listening to the podcast on the podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, feel free to tag me or DM me on Instagram, and we can continue this conversation, because this is something that we want to be looking at, not just at the beginning of the year, but all year long. It is about always getting yourself back into alignment, doing what feels good when it feels good for you in the way that it feels good for you, and taking it one day at a time, right? Keeping it really, really simple. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe wherever you are listening so you never miss a beat. For episode show notes, visit calandramartin.com/podcast. Your iTunes reviews and your sharing of the show helps us reach more magnetic bosses just like you. Until next time.